That ended kind of quick. Listen, I made that video when Trump won the election and became the president of the United States of America. Hi, this is Jeff. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about President Trump. We're going to talk a little bit about how I became a conservative person, what happened, what inspired me. All of those things are going to be kind of wrapped up in tonight's program. Uh, Before I get into that video that I made that video because I'm like, whoa, my president won. You guys, you got to understand something, okay? I'm a New Yorker. I'm from New York, okay? If you didn't know who Donald Trump was in New York, then you weren't a New Yorker. Uh, Kind of like Joe Biden. I forget what he said, but you ain't black if you don't vote Democrat. Um, Donald Trump put a whole lot of poor folks to work, and they built his empire. And most everybody who knew anything about the Trump empire knew that about him in New York. He was not, he played the game. New York was pretty corrupt when I was a kid, but Donald Trump built an empire. He went bankrupt a couple times. I read his book. It's over there on the shelf somewhere, The Art of the Deal. Uh, just an amazing man. I mean, he's just an amazing dude. I remember when he went from Democrat to Republican, and I know why. Most people wake up and they get smarter. That's what happens when you get older. I'm not necessarily Republican, but I'm an absolute conservative. Uh, so anyway, as I talk about Donald Trump tonight, I played that video because when he won the presidency after Barack Obama, who I detested, do you hear me? I detested him in every way you can think of it. First black president, all that stuff people were talking about, not me. I knew who he was. I knew what he studied. I knew his background. I found out quite a bit about him because he popped up like Jack in the Box, and then he did everything he possibly could to bankrupt this nation. And I know why, because he was a student of the Cloward Piven kind of mindset. And that was, how do you destroy a free market enterprise or free market society is you overwhelm its ability to pay for itself. Well, our nation is pretty much there anyway, because you can't survive with $36 trillion worth of debt. So we're in bad shape. We're in really bad shape. I don't know how anybody's going to turn this around. First and foremost, my allegiance is biblical, not political, although I believe you have to have a political role in these kingdoms in the earth in order to represent the political kingdom of God. That's kind of another conversation that I'm not really going to get into, but we're going to have that conversation one day on the show. My name is Jeff Morton. I live up here in Washington State. I'm going to play a video. I had the great opportunity to speak to Rush Limbaugh, and I recorded it. I'm going to play that here sometime during the program tonight. I'm a conservative, okay? I believe in the United States Constitution. I believe in the Bill of Rights. I believe this country was amazing. It was amazing. I was never one. From the time I was a little boy, did I identify by my race. I identified as my mother's son, and she taught us to be who we wanted to be, not the color of who we were. And I really appreciate that. Mom's gone now. But she didn't raise black kids. She raised kids. And we became adults. And I am so proud of my siblings because none of us are doing the Black Lives Matter thing. So I'm really proud of that. And I thank my mother for instilling those values in us as we were growing up. Donald Trump, okay. I was trying to print something there. Of course, my printer acts stupid right before the show. But I was trying to print a list of his accomplishments when he was president of the United States of America. I have it over here, but I want to talk first about this lunacy that's going on with all these indictments. You know, he's got the indictments in New York, the indictments in Florida. We got the Russian Gate thing. We got the woman who said he raped her. Yeah, okay. And she collected a ton of money. She's getting paid millions of dollars. I'm like, you got to be joking me. You think about Alvin Bragg, and you think about this one other woman down here in Atlanta, and I'm sitting here going, I have never seen anything like this since I've been alive on this planet. I remember the days of Ronald Reagan, who changed the way I think. He actually helped me to understand better how I think as a conservative. Cried when he died. Absolutely did. I was heartbroken when Ronald Reagan died because I learned so much from him. He actually introduced me to Rush Limbaugh, and I'll get into that in a little bit here. But tonight, I'm going to celebrate Donald Trump, okay? And for you people that don't like Donald Trump, find someplace else to go, because I'm going to be talking about Donald Trump tonight as though he was a family member. Do you understand? That's how much I appreciate what he represented and represents. When they brought the impeachment things against him, I'm sitting there going, where are they coming up with this stuff? You know, the Russian gate, and he was all involved in Ukraine, and everything that they were accusing him of, they were doing. And I'm talking about the political leadership in Washington, D.C. Some of you call it the swamp. And when I talk about the swamp, I'm talking Republican, Democrat, I'm talking independent. There's a whole lot of people in the swamp that have to play that game in the swamp. It's interesting to me, candidates run for office and they're looking for all kinds of money. Then when they get in office, they're looking for all kinds of money. I know, because I walked through the halls of the Congress and I talked to the representatives there, and a lot of their the people that were representing their offices. We went from room to room and everybody was begging for money. And I'm like, wow. So in order to play the game, and the political corruption in the United States of America, it takes a lot of money to do that, because somebody wants you to do something and they're willing to pay you for it. So we really don't, in my opinion, today, we don't have elected officials that are representing the people. We, the people, is almost a cliche about a country we used to have. That's the way I feel about where we are today. I don't know how you right this ship. I don't know if you can ever right this ship. However, Donald Trump came into office, and folks, I have a list over here of what he did. It would take me probably 15 minutes to read everything on this list of what he did. But I can sum it up by saying this. He began to free the people from the oppression of our government. That's the way I've looked at it for as long as he was president. He got rid of so many regulations. He gave the people back our money, and then we spent it to build the economy up. It's a simple thing, to understand that. Just listen to this. He delivered a future of greater promise and opportunity for citizens of all backgrounds. I love the fact that he went into the Bronx in New York and was celebrated. Do you hear me, folks? He went into the Bronx and was celebrated. He went into Harlem and he was celebrated. You guys need to understand, this man is not that politician. He is really, truly someone who represents this country and what it was all about, freedom. And the nice thing about saying that is he's a man. He's not a sissy man. Okay? All right. So, unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and those without a high school diploma all reached record lows under Donald Trump's White House. Unemployment for women hit its lowest rate in 70 years. Lifted nearly 7 million people off of food stamps, off of the EBT card. You people today, you don't know what that is. You don't know what a food stamp is. I do, because my mother had them. Poverty rates for African Americans, Black folks, and Hispanic Americans, Hispanic people, reached record lows. This list, folks, it goes on and on and on, all the way down. I mean, he did more for this country than any president of my lifetime, including Ronald Reagan, he literally was the best thing that happened to me when I was in the service, when he became our president. I was in the Navy. We were humiliated under Carter because we were dealing with the Iranians, and Carter wouldn't let us do what America could do. Ronald Reagan came into office and they released the hostages. Some of you young people are clueless what I'm talking about. Released the hostages the day he took office. Successfully rolled back burdensome regulatory overreach. He basically lifted off the hand of government off of the American people. Let's see, what does it say here? rescinded the previous administration's affirmative furthering fair housing rule, which would have abolished zoning for single-family housing to build low-income federally subsidized apartments, issued a final rule on the Fair Housing Act desperate impact standard, eliminated the Waters of the United States rule and replaced it within the Navigational Waters Protection Rule, providing relief and certainty for farmers and property owners, repealed the previous administration's costly fuel economic regulations. Barack Obama, folks, was the worst president of my lifetime. I thought Carter was bad. And then we got who we got today. I didn't know that it could get any worse until the last election, okay? And that election in itself has a whole lot of problems. It's funny now, all the things that we said were happening when this election took place, well, it's all coming out, slowly trickling out, just how bad it was. And it was bad. The same thing is true about, some of the vaccinations and things that we were forced to do and the shutdown. All this stuff. I'm watching Fauci the other day and I'm like, God, this guy is a pro at lying to everybody. He's just terrible. Because I know the man could say that it was blue one day and then turn around and say it was red the next day with a straight face and be serious. And there's so many Americans who believe him. It blows my mind that we believe the stuff that is being programmed into our psychology. All you got to do is look at the college students who are out protesting, and they're clueless. They have no idea what history is when it comes to the Palestinians or everything. They have no idea about anything. The Balfour Declaration, white papers, they have no idea how Hitler came to power. They have no idea how many 20 million people were slaughtered. It just blows my mind that they're sitting out here protesting with an ignorance that defies logic. It just blows my mind. And these are the next generation. We're in trouble, folks. If you think it's bad now, wait till those people get in the offices, because the folks that went to Woodstock, those are the ones that are prosecuting Donald Trump today. Got to call it the way it is. Americans had more money in their pockets. I could read this stuff all day long, folks. I don't have that kind of time to do all this. What Donald Trump did, having been I'm a veteran. I understand what war is like. I understand what it's like to be sitting on a ship, not knowing whether or not you're going to go to war. I never actually did do combat, but I know a lot of folks who did. My son is serving today. So when you think about what Donald Trump accomplished, and CNN's not going to tell you about it, okay? MSNBC's not going to tell you about it. ABC, CBS, NBC, they're not going to tell you about his accomplishments while he was in office. They're going to talk about some woman who he apparently molested and raped in a changing room in a department store. Excuse me? Okay. So I'm coming a little raw today here. You have no idea how obliterated my sensibilities were when they convicted him of 34 counts, okay? And I know, and there's a whole bunch of Americans out here who know that this is lunacy, and yet it's happening. So I really want to say what I'm about to say here. Donald Trump is a microcosm. If we can do this to the president of the United States of America, if you can take his rights away from him and prosecute him and persecute him in the way that we have watched them do since 2016, you and I have no freedom, period. Let me see, you gotta let this sink in. If the president of the United States can be erroneously charged, put on trial, and fined millions of dollars, you and I have no freedom anymore. He's like the microcosm. He's like the head banter, if you will, of what's happening to all of us. We have no southern border. You have any idea how many people are coming across the border? I mean, do you have any idea that they're projecting between 7 and 20 million people have crossed the border? There are people coming across the border that want to hurt us. And all they got to do is walk across the border. That's all they got to do. They don't have to fly a plane. They can just walk across the border, folks. I'm getting a little real tonight, okay? As I sit here and watch what's happening to Donald Trump, I sit here and I go, my grandson's growing up in this world. My son, he's in the military. He's got one more year to go. Excuse me. But they put him through hell over the COVID thing. He fought it, and he finally won because he didn't get thrown out. And he went through a whole lot of stuff. They took a whole lot of his money away from him. They were getting ready to prosecute him out of the military, give him a discharge. But he stood strong. He stood strong and said, nope. He said, I still have to take care of my family. And I don't know what you're putting in my arm. I'm not putting that in my arm. I couldn't be more proud of my kids. Anyway, I'm doing a whole lot of ranting here and raving. I'm going to show you a little clip. You know, Trump loves the boxing thing where these people are beating the hell out of each other. For some reason he thinks that's cool. I'm going to show you a video of Sean Strickland, who won the championship, or he was in a fight or whatever, and watch what he says. So
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you. I'll be donating to you, my man. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. Congratulations, sir. Sean Strickland, ladies and gentlemen.
I think what you're doing is awesome, and the UFC agrees.
Okay, so I know people that have gone to the Trump rallies across the country, and they say they're huge and nothing is ever seen. I couldn't get into one that they had here in Washington State, believe it or not. We couldn't. It was just too packed. There's too many people. So I believe what we're being programmed, what's coming out of your boob tube, what's coming across your internet. If you don't do your own research, then you're going to believe all the stuff that you're seeing. And what you're seeing is choreographed. It's not real. It's just not a lie, or it's a lie. So, and then we had this other video with Kevin Holland. I think he broke his arm, but watch what he does. If you want to play that one, Carol. You see, folks, Donald Trump is well regarded, but you're not going to hear that if you're sitting in front of your television listening to the mainstream media. You're not going to hear it. You have to get out with the folks and see the crowds and see. And what he says, I mean, Donald Trump says, he talks common sense. He's a common sense kind of guy. He's a street kid from New York. Yeah, he's wealthy. Yeah, but you don't see his son sitting in the courtroom right now talking about cocaine and laptops, do you? You don't see his daughters talking about how they were mistreated and had to take showers with their dad. You ain't seeing none of that stuff out of the Trump kids, are you? Okay. You're not seeing the kind of family that's represented in the presidency today when you talk about Donald Trump's kids. So I'm just here to say, in whatever time I have, to tell you that Donald Trump, to me, is the best president of my lifetime. He has flaws, he has imperfections, just like every single one of you, myself included, listening to what I'm talking about tonight. He did a hell of a job, and I appreciate what he represented. I'm going to play a little clip here. I tried for 25 years to get through to Rush Limbaugh, and I finally got through to him. And I'm going to let you listen to what we talked about. Carol, if you want to play that, please.
Some of this patience. So we'll start in Seattle with Jeff. Thank you, sir. How are you doing? Yes, I'm doing fantastic. And I was told to get right to the point. I want to talk about this president we have who went over to Poland, invigorated this people, spoke to this people as though they had a rite of passage, lifted them up, acknowledged their struggle, represented dignity, self-determination, and respect, as opposed to what we've had to deal with previously. Now, I'm sitting here listening to this man, and I'm going, this reminds me of a president that changed my whole world back in 1980. Rush, this is the first time I have called you, and everything you just said in the last 20 minutes, I agree with completely. Completely. So for you to be depressed after what you just did to my life, to my world today, that's absurd.
I'm not depressed. I'm not. That's the point. But I appreciate your kind words. I really. You made my day. In fact,
this whole thing about common sense and normalcy. I've been on this train for 30 years since Ronald Reagan changed my whole concept of the political structure of this country, and he caused me to start learning true history, not the one that was forced on us in the public school systems. So I really appreciate everything that you just said, because I agree with it completely, and the president is brilliant, and what he is doing to the media is brilliant, in my opinion.
So you think what he's doing is purposeful for whatever reason, it's strategic, and that he is beating them handily. That's what you think.
He's doing exactly what I've been waiting for a president to do with these liberal, progressive lunatics in charge for almost 40 years. He's giving it right back to them.
You know what? I think you said you liked my last 20 minutes. I think people out in the audience, and they're standing up and cheering what you're saying now.
Because as an American who has never been to Africa, I look at what Donald Trump has represented. He's representing common sense. Common sense is what this man is talking about, whether in Saudi Arabia, whether in Israel, whether in Poland. Common sense is what's been missing for almost 40 years in this nation.
You know,
and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you said this morning.
Jeff, I cannot thank you much. That's enough. That's you as I say, you've made my day, and I'm so happy you're. How old are you? How long have you been studying this stuff?
57 years old. In 1980, I'll just tell you real quick because I was told to get straight to the point. I've watched the Navy, the guys on my ship, stand up and applaud in 1980 or 1979 when Ronald Reagan was elected. And I was a black kid from New York, and I went, I want to understand what just happened. So I started opening books, and I started learning about the Democrat Party and the Democrat machine and the Republican Party. And I began to see the truth, and I went, oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. This is crazy what we've been taught. And now, 57 years of age, for 40 years now, I've been a conservative, and I've been fighting the lunacy that we have been subjected to for years, in particular the last 8 years of my life.
The last 8 years have been painful. I have to acknowledge it. They have been frustrating beyond all get out.
And you know, I should mention before I go.
You know why, though? You know why? Because the people on our side were not pushing back. And I also covered that earlier. We were out there pushing back all by ourselves. None of the elected people on our side were pushing back against this last 8 years.
Yeah, well, we've got a president right now that's not only pushing back, but he's cracking up as he does it. And I'm just celebrating the fact that I voted for this man, and he makes me feel like the day that I voted in 1979 for a man named Ronald Reagan. I really, really, really mean that.
Jeff?
And I appreciate you. Ronald Reagan introduced me to you 25 years ago. I've been listening for that long. This is the first time I've gotten through.
Well, it's our both lucky day because I'm glad you. And you live in Seattle. What's life like for you in Seattle?
It's like living in hell, to be honest with you. These people up here, I have a standard saying, Rush. Progressive liberalism is the one thing in our society that insists on making no sense at all every single time that it rears its head. These people make no sense all the time. And up here in Seattle, that's celebrated, believe it or not.
Amen. You're singing my song. This whole notion of sense, common, humor, whatever. You know, Trump, Jeff, thanks for the call so much. I sincerely.
Okay, so folks, just for the record, Rush Limbaugh helped me understand my beliefs when it comes to my conservative principles, the biblical truth that I hold dear to my heart, that freedom is the clarion call of every word of the Bible. Thomas Sowell, he's the flip side of Rush Limbaugh, and he taught me how to think outside of the box, that liberalisms and these people who believe that it's okay to do some of the, he taught me how to think intelligently as opposed to emotionally. So Thomas Sowell, he rolled out the facts and the reality of what I believe. And Rush Limbaugh was just the voice that I could echo as a result of how and why I believe what I believe. So Donald Trump to me was the best president of my lifetime. What they're doing to him, it's just it defies logic to me. And yet I said here just recently, I said he's going to get convicted because this is a great big time of lawlessness in the world across the board. I told everybody he's going to get convicted. I hope not, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get convicted. I didn't realize all 34 of these frivolous account charges were going to be nailed, but I should have, because that's the way these people think. You know, let's get him for all of them. Let's get him in jail. It's just like the time I said, hey, Barack Obama's going to be elected for a second term, and he was. And to this day, we still haven't seen his passports. So to me, it's kind of like we the people have lost our nation. We the people have watched in real time the evisceration of a man who's done more for this country in the 4 years that he was president, excuse me, than any president of my lifetime. And I don't know Donald Trump, but I have profound respect for who he is, what he's done, his failures, his mistakes, whatever those might be. They didn't stop him from becoming one of the greatest presidents of my lifetime. And I'm very proud to do this show. I'm very, very proud to do this show, simply because I want everybody to know that Jeff Morton, I am 100,000% behind what Donald Trump represents for the freedoms of our nation. And folks, I'm telling you guys, we are in for a rough ride. I don't even know if when we talk about Hitler, if it even comes close to where we're headed, if really at this point, if God doesn't intervene, it just terrifies me to think about what my grandkids and the people in this nation, the people in this nation who think I'm nuts, those are the same people that Saddam Hussein walked off buildings, blindfolded them, put their hands behind their back, and walked them off 4-story buildings. Those are the same people that Sharia Islam is going to prosecute and hang off bridges. We've seen that. And I know this is a little cut and dry, but we've seen these are the same people that are raped and mutilated in parts of the world. The ones out here protesting and spitting on our flag and calling America a bad place, those are the ones that have suffered horrific abuses in certain countries around the world. It's kind of unbelievable. It's like how can you support people that want to cut your head off? I don't get it. I really don't. This is probably going to be a little too rough for Facebook. They'll probably shut me down. I don't know. YouTube, I have no idea. But I'm just being real tonight, folks. First and foremost, I believe in the biblical truth, and I believe that stuff is that's part of who I am. But I'm also an American citizen, and I'm a citizen of the kingdom of God. So I just wanted to come on here and tell you what Jeff Morton thinks about Donald Trump. I remember one of my sons, we were watching Barack Obama give a speech, and he kept looking side to side, but he was reading a teleprompter. And my son said, "Our president's a teleprompter. He's reading a speech." Well, I mean, okay. But it just tickled me that my 14-year-old kid at the time would say that. None of my kids celebrate the Biden presidency. None of my children. All of my kids, like my brothers and sisters, we're more conservative in our thinking. We're more American. We're not African Americans. We are Black Americans. We are Americans. I don't even. Somebody said that as long as you identify as something other than American, then a slavery mentality is part of your identity. And I just refuse to be that. When people call me a minority, I go, I'm not a minority. What's a minority? A pygmy from the Congo running around in New York City, that might be a minority, but I'm not a minority. I'm an American citizen, and I'm trying to have and use my voice for as long as I can to encourage and lift up people. But you got to understand something, folks. This is a difficult time that we live in. This is a very difficult time. And my heart tells me we ain't seen nothing yet. So I'm hoping that, do I think they're going to try to put Donald Trump in jail? Absolutely. Without a doubt, do I think that's coming. At some point, the American public, which I believe outnumbers the people that want to see our nation destroyed, are going to rise up. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm not one to promote violence, but we're losing our freedoms, guys. I mean, what they did to us during COVID globally still has an effect on our culture. And it's not a good one. So I'm just kind of on here doing my little rant tonight in support of Donald Trump. I just think he has done an amazing job. I sit here when I'm praying, and I pray for him and his family. And I sit here and go, how much more can this man take? Because they've thrown everything that there is, both politically, through the justice system. They spied on him. They've mocked his family. They've treated him like absolute dirt. And he's the greatest president of my lifetime. And when I get it, I'm sitting here in absolute disbelief at what these people are doing and have done to Donald Trump. Okay. And when he says I'm innocent and this is a bunch of crap, I absolutely 100% am in step with that, because from the time that they accused him of the Russian gate, the time that they, think about it, folks. They're bringing him up on charges for having presidential classified documents, and Joe Biden's got him hanging out in his garage. It's like there's no law. It's lawless. And the people that are practicing lawlessness, they're winning the day, folks. Let's go back to Lois Lerner, what she did to the conservative folks in the country, spying on them and shutting down their whole livelihood through the IRS. She didn't go to jail. Hillary Clinton's got her people busting up hard drives and all kinds of. She got her own little secret computer system in her laundry room or wherever it was. She didn't go to jail. Bill Clinton had a woman on her knees in the White House, and all the women that he abused He didn't go to jail. Nobody said anything to him about all the money he had to pay out to keep people quiet. All the dead people that are still dying around the Clintons. It just blows my mind. And we all know all the rumors surrounding Barack Obama. No, I don't think his wife is a dude. Oh, Jesus. But I do think that his interest in being president of the United States of America was to destroy America. I absolutely believe that. And part of me still thinks that's happening with the people he placed into offices before he left office. So I'm just pouring my heart out here and let you guys know what to think. And I don't really care if people come and say, well, we need to shut Jeff down. I don't know, buddy. I got this little podcast that I started, and I'm trying to make improvements as we can. But I'm a conservative American who believes in our Constitution, and I'm a veteran, and I'm a very proud son of my mother, not the color of my skin. And I think this is the greatest country the world has ever known. People cried out for freedom, and this country was given to people to build one of the greatest nations the world has ever known. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, but they took it away from the Indians. Well, the tribal war and the bloodletting going on with the Indians was amazing. It was crazy. And yeah, no, I don't think that what the people that I call progressive lunatics did to the Indians back in the native people, I don't think it was right. I don't think slavery was right. The world has its problems, and the world has people in it that produce those problems. But there's good things in the world, and there's good people in the world. When you talk about reparations, okay, nobody's talking about reparations for the people who fought and died, their families, to end the slave trade. Nobody's bringing their names up. We're talking about people that, what, just because they're black, they should get a check? Ugh. I think that would actually destroy this nation, because where does it stop? Many Americans died. We had Civil War. We had, we've been involved in wars across this nation. A lot of Americans have paid with their lives, okay? And almost all of the time, except maybe for Vietnam, we're fighting for freedom. I don't know what we were doing in Afghanistan. I have no idea. And how we left Afghanistan is humiliating. But there's a lot of people, a lot of sons and daughters that didn't come home. And we're not talking about those people. We're talking about college campuses putting tents up so these young people can go out here and make fools of themselves with the idiocy about the Palestinians and Israel. Israel was attacked. People were slaughtered. Yes, Israel roared back. That's what we would do too. Oh, Jesus Lord. I listened to an Israeli who had just moved into a kibbutz a week before Hamas came in. I sat in the audience as he told his story. I watched the tears roll down his face because of what they did when they came through their neighborhood. He, fortunately, and his wife and kids were spared, but he could hear the screams of women being raped, people being killed, dragged out of their homes, shot and killed. When you listen to that story and then you sit here and you go, okay, what are they supposed to do? Just lay back and say, okay, you guys can come in anytime and kill and rape and murder our daughters. How would you like that to happen in your neighborhood, to your people, to your family members? See, that's happening in Ukraine. That's happening around the world. That's happening in Africa. Folks, I think we make a big mistake to think that it's not going to happen here. So I just want you to know that Jeff Morton in Let's Talk About It is a pro-Trump program. I love President Trump and what he represents and what he did for this country. And that's a shame. It's a shame. Excuse me. It's a shame to witness what we're witnessing in this nation. And there's a lot of people out here. I've talked to military boys. Let me tell you something. I was going to tell this last week. I went into a recruiter's office. The door was a metal door with a lock. That's how you could get in there. God bless them. They got to be protected in this world. And I asked the people that were sitting, there was about 5 people in their different branches, all combined in one office. And I said, how bad is the recruitment in our military? And their faces drew down and they said, it's unbelievably bad. We have the smallest military in the history of our nation and people are not joining. Well, let me tell you something, folks. The folks out there that want to destroy this nation and cripple our completely collapse our government, they know that. They know that our sons and daughters are protesting on campuses in tents. They're not signing up to protect the freedoms that we have. It's not happening. And part of me is like, I don't want my sons and daughters over there fighting. Let's put the president in that country and the other president, put them in a ring and let them duke it out if that's what you got to do. But the recruitment is way down. In fact, the mood in the room when I'm talking to these military people was somber because they're recruiters. And they said, we're kind of bored sitting in here. Nobody's joining. And the enlistment is down. Of course, they threw a whole bunch of military boys and women out of the military because they wouldn't take the COVID shot. Oh, would you guys like to come back now? We kind of made a mistake. Listen, on a positive note, I believe when this is all said and done, there's going to be a great big party. You just have to decide what side of the fence you want to be on. I suppose that's what it really boils down to. Do you want to be lawless or do you want to be lawful? Do you want to be righteous or do you want to be unrighteous? Do you want to be a lunatic or do you want to have wisdom? It really boils down to that. Now, I'm going to close up the show here in a minute, but I'm doing something kind of special next show. I was a bad kid. I would have stole your car when I was 12 years old and not even thought about you. In fact, I did steal a lot of cars when I was a kid, and I paid for it. But I had a probation officer. They tested me and said, well, he's got a pretty high IQ. Let's not throw him away. So they put me in a program where I went to a school in the kind of the farmlands of Ithaca, New York, a town called Freeville, New York. The place is called Georgia Junior Republic. And I was there for almost 4 years. Kind of like a boarding school, but not really. Well, there's a Facebook group that I have been a part of. I mean, every time they throw me off Facebook, I come back on Facebook and I go get back in the group. Well, I'm talking to kids, people, men my age, women my age, and older and younger, who also went to Georgia Junior Republic. I actually wrote a whole chapter of my time there, Georgia Junior Republic, in my book, Uncoloring Race. This was a school started by a man. His name was William George. And what he did was he saw the gangs in New York City turn of the century 1900s. And so he developed a school in the mountains, and then they brought the kids that were, dying in the streets of New York and gangs and whatnot out to, kind of learn about the country. It's called Georgia Republic because it was fashioned after a republic. We had our own government. We had our own prison system. Most of it was operated by the students, and the faculty oversaw the whole program. Well, I got sent there. A judge sent me there. And it was the best experience of my childhood. It really was. And at different times while I was there, I didn't know that. But I'm 52 years down the road from my experiences there. And I realize, and have for quite some time, how being there impacted my world. And so I've asked several of the people that I went to school with there, that I'm talking to, that are still alive. A lot of them are dead. and some of the people that were there either before me or after me, if they would like to come on to my program here and talk about it, talk about our experiences. George Jr. Republic, when we're dealing with the group, impacted a lot of our lives, some in a very positive way, some in a very negative way. And I've asked those people if they could join me next week on next week's program to just talk about our experiences. And, we're years down the road from those days, but how did it impact us? I think Georgia Junior Republic saved my childhood, and maybe even saved me. Anyway, that's going to be next week's show. All I can say, folks, when you look in the mirror, if you don't see your best friend, it's not easy to offer yourself to most people. I think the world of people. I really do. For the last 2 days, I've been meeting people from every walk of life related to my job and what I do. And I get almost giddy because I think people are amazing. I absolutely think people are amazing. I think women are incredible. And I say that in honor of my mother, who raised 7 kids by herself. So I just see the good in people. Dennis Prager said, the question's not why is there evil in the world, but why is there good in the world? And I like to represent the good things in life. We all make mistakes. We've all done our stupid. I've certainly done mine. But I'm 65 years old. I'll be 65 years old in August. And I survived a lot of foolishness in my lifetime. And I really believe that George Junior Republic was the catalyst that helped me understand that there was more to people than just anger. And I'm going to have some of those folks on to tell their story next week. So I hope you can join us here on Jeff or on Let's Talk About It. We're always trying to improve things around here. My wife has got a background thing she ordered for me. We're going to have that up. She didn't like the curtains. She didn't like the flags. I've got a very limited budget to do this show. And so she went and bought something for me. We'll have that up in a couple of weeks. I guess it's going to take a while to get here. But my wife is very supportive. And Carol, when we get done, Carol Gleason is my guy behind the scenes. He does his show. He volunteers. I throw him a few bucks when I have it. When I can, I'm grateful for you, Carol. I want you to know that. When we close out, go ahead and run that video. My wife is trying to sell some more products. She's getting a little heavy on stuff because she kind of got burnout on her job. And so she took a little break from doing all the things she needed, time to herself. But we've got a lot of products here, and we'd love for you folks to purchase them. She'll ship them anywhere in the continental United States of America. Carol's going to run that deal, and we're going to close out the show. I want to thank you all for joining me. I didn't have the comments on, so I don't even know if anybody was talking. Let me see. Yep. Oh, Bobby's out there. Hey, Bobby. Listen, this is Jeff. We're going to close out the show. Check out my wife's video. Buy her products. And we'll see you guys next week. I want to thank you for joining me on Let's Talk About It.